Welcome to the K-State Insiders, your Kansas State sports show. Now, let's head into the studio.
Welcome to the K-State Insiders. I'm Fitz. We got a little shuffled lineup tonight because to explain a loss like that, we needed some new brains, like a brain that's never been spoiled by the horrors that can become K-State sports. That's our young guy, Lance Eisele. Lance, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming out. I see you got an escape ladder behind you. That's going to be handy. That's really good. Of course, we got Cole and Gills. You know them. Yeah, I know. And from the KSU Nation Podcast, making their debuts here, Steve Berklund and Kenny Greeley. I totally missed the Kenny G reference. That's perfect for you in music. Stevie B, Kenny G,
what up?
Teaming up.
Hey.
We got extra help here to decipher and what the hell just happened, because I got to admit, this is my fourth attempt at explaining what happened on Saturday at Bill Snyder Family Stadium. I still can't wrap my mind around it because it was such a pitiful performance that it's kind of hard to express what we saw, and because the stakes were there. It was an important game, and they looked like they didn't care. So let's give it to the boys from the KSU Nation Podcast and see what they think. Take some time here. I got to retweet the show. So,
well, I'm glad that you threw it to us, Fitz, because
you're a little loud, bro.
if you want to go ahead and just give us some time, we're going to explain what happened.
Good.
And we're going to break it down for you. We're glad that you had us on the show, and I got nothing. I got nothing, Fitz. I have no idea what happened. I'm just as confused as everybody else was, and really let down just as everybody else is. Everybody raise your hand if you like moral victories.
Definitely not.
Well, that doesn't surprise me one bit, Stevie. But unfortunately, that's all we have to really look for now until the end of the season is moral victories. What do you got, Steve?
I think the biggest thing for me is that, like, all the things that we worried about going into the season, you know, the defensive backfield, how they're going to do with a couple new guys. How is the offensive line going to do with a bunch of new dudes? How is Connor Riley going to do as a first-year OC? All of those things we worried about were on full display against Arizona State. The DBs have been bad all year. Let's just call a spade a spade. Jordan Riley's been really bad. The O-line has been bad. I'm not quite sure, you know, if the OC title for Connor Riley is working out the best, because he's having a hard time juggling, calling plays, and being the OC and coaching O-line as well. So I don't know, man. There's a lot to be upset about right now, but I feel like at the same time, all of these things we worried about a couple months ago are coming to be a big issue right now.
That is interesting because you're right. Like we saw flashes of all this earlier in the season. This here, that there. Game 10 of the season, here it all is. Here's everything going wrong at once that you worried about 9 games ago. It was crazy. Lance, that was a lot of fun at the Bill. I bet you wish you'd been in the student section for that one.
I'm actually glad I got to hear just you complain. From my experiences in the student section so far, I'm glad I was not there, because
yeah, it's getting ugly.
There were some very negative people in there, and I do not imagine that would have been a fun time.
What were your thoughts on the game?
Honestly, I was just shocked. Like it looked like they just didn't do anything for 2 weeks and decided to run inside zone more than I do in NCAA 25, and came out there with zero game plan and looked like the team that looked like they played Arizona State this Sunday after the loss to Houston instead of 2 weeks later.
Very strange. Colesy Wolsey, give me another shot of your wisdom.
So the best way that I could think about this, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention, the high school playoffs are currently going on, and every single week a different team gets eliminated. And unfortunately for my Fighting Olathe North Eagles, it happened week 1. And that game, while it was going on, you could tell the game was about to be over, and the attitudes of the players completely changed. When they got into the locker room, it was a sad locker room, and people were they weren't mad, they were just sad. And guys, It felt like K-State lost in the sectional round of the Acacia State playoffs on Saturday, because that was the vibe that I got from the players. That was the vibe that I got from the coach. Nobody was like pissed off or mad. Everybody was just kind of gloomy and down and sad. And it just felt like they just got kicked in the junk, to put it, for a better lack of
typically. Yeah.
I mean, that's what it felt like. And I watched the press conference on Monday. Obviously, some of you guys were there. I was not. But I watched the press conference, and it didn't feel like anything was different, right? Like, it wasn't a sad press conference. There wasn't any fire. There didn't seem to be any determination. It was just kind of one of those things where, okay, well, the sun comes up the next day, and you go back and you trust the process. But the game on Saturday, it was weird because it felt like the players at the end of the game were essentially throwing it all out there, and they understood that if they lost that game, any hopes at winning a title, which is what this group talked about for weeks and months leading up to this season, any chance at winning a title was going to be out the window. And so the last quarter of the game, they just threw it all out there because it felt like their last high school playoff game.
Yeah, it did indeed. That's a good description. Gills, you were at the game. You were at the post-game press conference. You were there today. Lance, you and I were all at the press conference. And, those press conferences used to be on Tuesday. So there was an extra day in there. You had, some meetings and gathering and healing from whatever happened, mental healing at least. This is now there on Monday, and this was immediate. And the vibe check failed for me. I thought Chris Kleiman was a lot better. I mean, he was kind of back to Chris Kleiman because he's had some rough personal stuff going on. But he was business. But I just felt the players were still in a state of shock that they had screwed up their season, and it makes me worry about Saturday's game with Cincinnati.
Yeah, Avery Johnson was as quiet, as monotone as he's been, really, Fitz, all year long in a press conference. And so, I was thinking about this earlier. It'd be awesome to see Kleiman come out and light a fire and not throw his guys under the bus, but try to motivate them and give the fans something that they can watch on the presser and be like, okay, that's something I can get behind. Change something. When you lose 2 games in a row the way that K-State lost, you can't keep doing those same things over and over again and expect different results. So, I was thinking that it'd be nice to have Kleiman do that, but he's just not that type of coach. And I've said it in the past, it'd be nice to have him do that at certain times, and this would be a time to do it. But Fitz, everything he's going through right now off the field, he doesn't want to be mean to anybody. He doesn't want to yell at his players, and I don't blame him. And so he's just in a tough spot, and everything he is going through, obviously there's a lot of respect. I respect him coming out and talking to us and trying to be as positive as possible. So, and he was, Fitz, you asked him about those rumors going around, and he gave you an answer. And so Gene Taylor in the background, I don't know if that picked up on the videos, but he butted in and said he'd be mad if he didn't know about it. But with the game itself, man, guys, we gave K-State so much praise with its way to bounce back from negativity, from adversity. Ever since that BYU game for the next, 4 or 5 weeks, K-State was able to handle a turnover or something not going right. But the pick on the second play of the game, or that 63-yard bomb to Dante Cephas that got wiped back, or the botched snaps, Kansas State didn't respond from those plays. They let that, it didn't snowball as bad as it did in Provo, but those negative plays, K-State was never able to bounce back, from them against Arizona State. So that was what was most disappointing for me. You're going to have those negative plays. It's about how you respond from them.
Yeah. The lack of toughness. Oh, we screwed up. We're down. We're done. That's what it felt like through most of the first half. This team is 7-3. They have an opportunity, and albeit I don't like the chances of it, to go 9-3 in the regular season and pick up a 10th win in a bowl game. We're at the point now with K-State football where a potential 10-win season feels disappointing. What? KSU Nation, explain that to me. What, are K-State fans spoiled?
We kind of are actually fighting about this because he's all about the moral victories. And I'm like, no, it's Big 12 championship or bust, CFP and all of that. And he's all about, well, K-State can get 9 wins, 10 wins. And, that's really good because this is first year for Avery Johnson as a starter, first year for Connor Riley as an OC. There's still a lot to play for. And I'm like, man, That's a moral victory. I don't want to hear that right now. K-State's been playing bad for a month now, Kenny. I don't want to hear that.
It's true. I mean, I kind of echo a lot of what Brian Hanley's not here, but in spirit, he's here because I like what he says. If we're going to talk about a team getting 9 wins, 10 wins a season, and that doesn't mean anything, then what are we doing? Why are we even bothering to play the games? What's the point of playing the games if 9 or 10 wins a season doesn't mean anything? But as far as K-State goes, I mean, I think it's the lack of creativity as we were going down the stretch. Like what was working in the beginning of the season was working at the beginning of the season, but then all the teams just got the film and said, oh, how do we beat K-State? Oh, we load the box on defense and we throw to the corner or we throw to the safeties on offense. Seems like a winning scenario. I mean, and if you just have the tools to be able to do that, you'll find success. And we just seen a lot of people just be able to just do that. And we've been exposed, unfortunately, on those parts of the football. I mean, we can have moments in the game where we find success. Like DJ had moments where he broke and got some really good yardage.
They waited too long to do that, though, dude.
Yeah, it's just a little. It's too little, too late.
Too long, dude. You cannot come out. And I heard it on the radio today from actually Mitch Fortner, and I actually looked it up, and he's right. K-State has scored 3 points on offense in the first quarter of the last 3 games. 3 points on offense the last 3 games in the first quarter. That is terrible. I mean, that's going back 4 weeks now, right? Like with the off week in there, I mean, that's just bad game planning from Connor Riley, and you could see why a lot of fans want him fired. Let's just be honest. He's not been good. And the K-State offense hasn't been good. So.
And just to throw a quick stat, and then we'll throw it back to the rest of the panel. But I think it's pretty alarming that there have been, I think the stat is 8 games now where K-State is favorited for more than a touchdown in the last 6 years under the Kleiman era, and we've lost 8 games with that stat. That's, to me, that's when we lost to Texas University last year. Didn't hurt as bad because they had a bunch of 5-star recruits. Right. We made it close. It was in there.
That still hurt bad.
It hurt bad, but we were underdogs, and it just seems like every loss this year we've been favored, and we've thrown it, man. It hurts even worse now because we have the talent.
Lance, I got something a little different for you, because that was a stinker, but so was the basketball game on Thursday. It's not easy to be a K-State student right now. It feels like when I was in school and the football team didn't know how to throw and catch, and the basketball team was still in a hurn and not very good. I mean, that couldn't have been a fun weekend of sports for the student body.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, it was just not a fun time. In the basketball game, everybody was, especially with Coleman Hawkins, everybody was not happy. There was a lot of booing at the basketball game, a lot of chatter within the student section of, oh, this basketball team, we paid all this money for this basketball team and they can't do anything. And then everybody was like, well, at least we got the football team on Saturday. Surely they won't let us down. And well, we know how that went. So at least we got the women's basketball team, but definitely not been a fun week for the student body. Definitely was a doom and gloom day today throughout the campus. It felt a little bit because of the rain, but also it just felt like everybody was sad from the weekend and Thursday's game.
Can I touch on that, Fitz?
Yeah.
So I have a theory about this, and I think that honestly, guys, like it's kind of a good thing. And it's not a good thing that there's disappointment amongst the fan base, because that means that the teams aren't performing to the level of expectations. But I think that the fact that there are those expectations amongst the fan base and being set amongst the coaches is a good thing. Because under previous regimes, I always say that when referencing basketball, but under previous regimes, it would be tolerated, right? Like that would be something that, okay, well, the bamboo trees don't grow in a day. And so, it's one of those things, guys, to where it's like, if people are frustrated, it's because those expectations are being laid upon them by the actual coaching staff and by the players themselves. And honestly, like, I don't think anybody inside that football program accepts that loss on Saturday. I don't think anybody inside that basketball facility accepts that loss on Thursday. So it's not like that. This is just coming out of nowhere, guys. Like, these coaches are paid millions of dollars, but they also care. And so I truly believe that we will see a better product. But I mean, there's something to be said for fans not accepting mediocrity, because I mean, let's just call it how it is. Like, this was an unacceptable weekend for Kansas State athletics. Yeah. You cannot lose at home to an LSU team who still trying to figure things out, a brand new team. So the whole brand new team excuse for basketball, it is what it is. And obviously we're talking about football as well. So yeah, I don't think that it's a bad thing that it was, as Lance said, all doom and gloom, because there are expectations.
Ryan Gilbert, a lot of us had K-State at 9-3 or 10-2 in the regular season, or even some people said 8-4, who are looking smart right now. But this team gets to 9-3. I actually read a tweet that calling for Chris Kleiman's firing because all he can win is 8 or 9 games a season. Winning is really hard. That's a good record. You're not going to get 10 plus every year at a program like Kansas State. It's hard to maintain that level of talent and consistency, but I think some people have just overreacted with the calling for firings, and I want to get into Connor Riley in a second, but it's just crazy, some of the emotional takes that come out of the fans.
Yeah, and you look at Avery Johnson as a true sophomore, and the wideouts maybe aren't the best group of players. The safeties have certainly underperformed this season, over the last couple of games with the big plays and the home runs they give up. And so Chris Kleiman's teams aren't perfect. And so if you want to get on him and say it's his fault for that, then maybe, sure, I get that. But, guys, I hate to bring up Steelers here. I know Big B's not here, but this is so comparable to Mike Tomlin. There's so many Steelers fans that want Tomlin fired because he'll go 10-7, 9-8 with a guy like Mason Rudolph or Duck Hodges, Kenny Pickett at quarterback with the below average roster. That's good coaching. When you can win and make the playoffs, yeah, you get bounced in the first round, but when you can have a successful season with a roster that's maybe not crazy good, like Skylar Thompson, for an example, not to throw, he's a quality player, but he's not a Heisman winner or anything like that. And if you can win games with guys that are just maybe average, that's good coaching. Now, obviously the challenge there is get better players, schematics and stuff like that on your team. But if you want to complain about the lows being 8-9 win seasons, man, I don't know what to tell you, because throughout that COVID year, Chris Kleiman has been insanely consistent and successful at Kansas State. And obviously 7 wins already under the belt. I think that those Big 12 hopes being slashed, maybe has some people emotional, sure fits, but take a step back at the end of the day. With the young core group of players, a young quarterback, not the end of the world.
Lance, I just want to make sure that was your roommate, not a serial killer, right?
Yes, that was my roommate. Cam.
I wasn't sure if you knew he was there, and I thought I saw a knife. Probably wasn't. Probably just me being scared. But yeah, that's the first roommate we've had actually leave. We've had roommates participating in different ways in this, including one that looked like he was from LinkedIn. Okay. Kenny, Steve, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Okay. I'm going to give you free reign to be critical, because I feel like I overhyped this team. I have a sense of guilt that I was too optimistic about Avery Johnson and this entire football team at the start of the season, and I raised hopes in ways that they haven't panned out. Is Tim Fitzgerald an idiot? Those might be two different arguments. You can fill in there. Gil, stay on this. You're not part of that conversation.
We're giving free reign to attack King Fitz. I'm going to let you take it away.
Well, we do our preseason, our picks for the year. We look at the schedule. K-State's going to win this game. K-State's going to win 16 in a row. And, of course, it happened. I had K-State going 11-1. Actually starting off going 11-0 and then losing at Ames, which would have been a heartbreaker if it actually would have happened. I don't think that you're wrong for setting the expectations really high. I mean, everyone thought Avery Johnson could be a Heisman Trophy candidate, right? And with the amount of players coming back at the receiver core and linebackers and D-line, everyone was really excited. They had a lot of question marks on other places, but they were thinking, Klanderman is, what do you say? In Klanderman we trust, right?
Yeah, I've got a T-shirt line that I want to create.
Merch line.
In Klanderman we trust, and it's still in the progress of being made right now. Probably got to put a halt on it after.
But I mean,
last couple of games.
Yeah. So, and we thought the O-line would be fine because, Connor Riley's been really good coaching O-line. Turns out he's having a hard time juggling coaching O-line and calling plays. So I don't think you're wrong for hyping up K-State. We were all hyped in the offseason. Everyone thinks they're going to win a national championship, right? So I don't have any problems with that. I was also hyping them up. What was your pick? Because I had him going 11-1. Was it 10-2?
I think it was 10-2.
I think it was 10-2.
Yeah, I think the thing that upsets the most with the fans is seeing the quality of players that we have. Watching the games, we had the eye test for the entire season. We saw DJ almost get 200 yards for like 4 games in a row. I mean, it's just like it's frustrating when teams start to figure out how to stop that. We don't have an answer to like change our course of action when things aren't going our way. And we barely squeaked by KU, and then we completely dropped the ball at Houston. And we thought that maybe that was just, weather related or whatever excuse you want to make. But it turns out it was a lot more than just, that game. We let that game carry over to our own home turf. And I had called K-State to to go undefeated this year. And again, they still haven't done that since 2012, undefeated at home. It's a heartbreaker.
I think everyone had K-State winning every game at home this year. It's not just you, dude.
Yeah,
it's King Fitz. King Fitz as well.
Yeah. Cole, they should have. They really should have, but they didn't. I think this team can regroup. I want to have faith because we haven't seen like a football team collapse at K-State in a very long time. And I hope this isn't the case this season. I'm going to set aside COVID. That was a bold crap year. But I'll say this. I think the most disappointing thing I've seen here is, and the Nation boys hit on it, the way to stop what K-State was succeeding at was easy. You just put more guys in the middle. And I feel like on the second move of a chess game, we just tipped over our king and said, we don't know how to counter that. It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's not that hard. Just get to the edge.
Yeah.
Don't. It's like, okay, we can do it this time. Okay, we didn't do it. We can do it this time. Okay, we didn't do it. Okay, we can do it this. No. They've given you a numbers advantage somewhere else on the field. Take it.
Mm-hmm. Here's how I view this, guys. And I kind of have been thinking about this too. And this was something that I just couldn't get out of my mind today. And you look at the losses where K-State has lost, right? BYU, we were willing to chalk it up to BYU is a good team, which I still think BYU is a good team, by the way. They didn't play well against KU and they lost. But guess what? It's the Big 12. That's going to happen. Okay? Houston. Again, there are excuses that can be made for that game. But in all reality, guys, if we're looking at a quote-unquote clunker, I still think Houston is that game. I don't think we're giving Arizona State enough credit for being a good football team because Kenny Dillingham should win Big 12 Coach of the Year. Like, to me, no questions asked. It's going to be Deion Sanders because that's the hype train, but Kenny Dillingham should be Big 12 Coach of the Year. And to me, the big challenge is going to be how does this team respond against Cincinnati? Because if there isn't a response, then it's pretty obvious that something's wrong. But if they respond and they play like we've seen them play in the past, then, guys, I think we can honestly chalk this up to 2 losses against teams that were better than K-State and 1 clunker. And if we're looking at what has happened throughout the course of Kleiman's career, then that would track. That would make sense. Typically, he has 1 clunker and he loses to teams that are quite simply better than K-State. And until they find a way to make that happen, now, obviously, the caveat is beating TCU. I mean, that was a huge win, and you're never going to be able to take that away from him. I still think Chris Kleiman is an outstanding coach, and this team can position themselves to be at the top of the conference. But I think it's as simple as we just got the layout of this conference completely wrong. I mean, K-State's lost to the teams that were picked 14th, 15th, and 16th in the conference. That is absolutely mind-boggling, right? But that's not anybody's fault. Those teams were pretty good, minus Houston, who I still think has a chance to be bowl eligible. That's neither here nor there. Okay, right? So
crazy.
Again, it's just one of those years, guys, and like nobody wants to hear that, and I get that. Has K-State wasted an opportunity? 100,000%. But does that mean that this has to be a failure of a season? I don't think it has to be a failure of a season. We talked about continuity. That's why these next 2 games are so important, because you still can right the ship. And people don't want to hear that, but you still can right the ship. And if they can do that, then, again, I don't think it's necessarily a failure of a season.
Gills and Lance, both of you here, Chris Kleiman isn't a fire in the season kind of guy. I mean, we see coordinators get fired or demoted and coaches make a big deal of it. I I don't see how the public announcement of those moves during the season helps your team at all. You know, they might calm the fans down, but I've been advocating to get Connor Riley back to the sideline because we're seeing problems with the line, and maybe it's just they stink, but maybe it's because for the first time their offensive line coach isn't with them. He's in the press box calling plays. So I think getting him down by the action might help. And I've even advocated for putting Coach Wells up with an experienced eye above, and maybe he gets more involved in calling plays. But there's not going to be anyone fired.
No. Connor Riley, man, if you really want a coordinator up in the press area with getting that view of the game, you don't have the luxury of just moving him down there onto the field, being with his offensive line. But you do now with a guy named Matt Wells. So I think it's that's valid, Fitz. But no, I mean, even Courtney Messingham, that was after the season, right? Right. Immediately after it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not Chris Kleiman. He's a loyal guy. We all know that. Even if he's going to make a move, he's not going to stab his friend, his colleague in the back like that.
Fitz, can I put this up here real quick?
Yeah.
Okay. So from Thrift, I had said that Kenny Dillingham over Prime. Guys, can we just acknowledge the fact that if Kenny Dillingham had Travis Hunter and Shadur Sanders and Jimmy Horn, that Arizona State team would be undefeated because literally 3 people touched the ball. Okay, that's it. That's all I wanted to say.
Well,
your preseason prediction to be the worst team in the conference, and they're fighting for a chance at the title game. How can you not argue that?
Yeah.
I think they're going to get there.
Yeah. How can you not argue? Well, I mean, you could cue the Jim Carrey. So you're saying there's a chance with K-State making it into the title game. There's a whole lot that has to happen for that. But I mean, it's nonsense to even argue that Kenny Dillingham doesn't deserve at least a high consideration of getting that coach of the year. I mean, to me, it's like you take a team that had won, they were projected to not even get 4 wins this season. Steve,
Yep.
They're double that already, man. They're double that already.
Lance, how do you feel about that? Coach Prime or Coach Dillingham for?
Well, I want to say this with the whole pick 16th, or was it 16th they were picked?
BYU was
Arizona State,
16th.
Okay, yeah. I remember week 1, I was doing the top 5 Big 12 games, and I originally said that Arizona State Wyoming would be a good game because Arizona State is just not a good football team, and here they are. But I think honestly, Kenny Dillingham is a reason why people don't like Connor Riley. You go out there, you watch Arizona State, and you see imaginative play calling. Like even if he gets too cute at some points, like there's something different out there. You could tell that the game plan is tailored to K-State.
This is a symbol. If you need help, just do that.
I'll blink twice if my roommate tries to kill me. Don't worry.
Okay.
But I think it's a reason why people are mad with Connor Riley. Is there's just nothing imaginative. You see him. It's almost like he's scared of change, and he'd rather. I guess I don't know the way I think I said it. I don't remember if I said it in the booth the other day, but it's almost like they would rather lose a game by 14, but chew the clock and have safe play calling, than try an imaginative play and then. Maybe have it be an interception or a fumble or lose the game by 7.
But they started going fast and they started playing better, Gills.
Yep.
Maybe there's something there you can work on. I do. I think, and you know what? Everyone wants to make the Colin Klein comparison. Enough. You guys hated Colin Klein play calling.
Yep.
Let's not forget you hated Colin Klein's play calling. But it seems like under Colin Klein, they were going slow and didn't look good. And then they picked up the pace and all of a sudden things started working. And I think that's maybe the biggest thing. Like you can talk about the specific play calls, Gills, but this offense is in a rhythm. And when they get going faster, they get a rhythm and it seemed to help.
Yep. And I get it. If you go 3 and out and you don't get the first down, that's a lot more pressure on your defense with, those guys being on the field more. But I mean, if you're going 3 and out, even when you are huddling and you're still going 3 and out, right? So go ahead, try to switch things up. I said this earlier, man, if things aren't working, it is a pattern now with back-to-back poor performances. You can't be doing the same things over and over. And so going with that faster pace, man, Fitz. I mean, what we saw later in the game. And don't get it twisted, man. Arizona State was much more vanilla on its defense. When it had a lead, trying to protect it, not let the big play. I think they were probably okay with letting K-State get 5, 6, 7 yards of play in the middle of the field. But by all means, man, go up tempo, see what happens. What's the worst thing that could happen? You lose a game?
Yeah, exactly. Totally. I completely agree. Okay, guys, let's talk a little basketball because I feel like a masochist.
That's so much better.
Yeah,
he's back there. He's back. He's he's leaving. Okay,
Blink.
good. Steve, we all had great hopes for K-State basketball. Are they already dashed, or was that just one stinker?
I'm not quite sure. I don't think anyone knows. I mean, after watching just the exhibition game, I think everyone knew, man, this team is going to take a long time to start gelling. I mean, that's what happens when you decide to go to the portal every single year, right? And last year, K-State came out and got dominated in the first game against USC, and then later they beat KU. So you're not really sure what to make of the first game, but it's not good. It's not good. And I mean, they lost by I think 10 or 11 points, and it was never that close. Every time K-State made a run, LSU decided to, pick up its game as well. I mean, I don't know if I've ever said that many F words at home alone while watching K-State basketball, but it was a lot. It was a lot. So I don't know if it's time to hit the panic button yet, but they better beat, Mississippi Valley State tomorrow.
I have some good nuggets on that team, by the way, when we get to my turn.
Yeah.
I feel like the six of us could maybe play with them.
I mean, if K-State doesn't win that game by 20 or more, I mean, it's not going to look good because they've lost 3 games by 40 plus at this point. So I don't think it's, quite ready to hit the panic button, but I understand if you're a fan, big fan, student, I understand it as well. I don't know. What do you think, Kenny?
You got to put faith in Coach Tang. I love this guy. His character, who he is as a person, what he means to the university and like what he stands for. It means a lot to me to have a guy like that, just a guy with a lot of faith. It means a lot, but none of that matters if you're not winning basketball games, and I said this on our podcast. I said, did Coach Tang just get really lucky when we had Mark, we had Noel or
Keontae Johnson.
K-State
was the only school that was going to take him too. So, and he inherited Marquise Noel. So, I mean, it's a valid question.
And we'll never know if that's the real answer. Cause I mean, you could chalk up the whole season last season to the whole Naquan Tomlin debacle and everything. And that just throwing the whole season into disarray. And then this season, really trying to put our money where our mouth is. And we just haven't seen the success just yet. And like Steve said, I mean, maybe this might need some time to gel. We're a little impatient as K-State fans. I'm
super impatient.
We want the success
results
now.
Now
we want it now. Just do it. Make your dreams come true.
Kills. We did a vibe check for football. You were at basketball today. Give me that vibe check.
Yeah, there's one thing I regret not asking Tang with that press conference today, and I wish I would have just asked him about that Butler loss from his first season, because I think it was a little later than this LSU one was, but it was a pretty ugly loss for K-State. And obviously K-State turned out to be pretty dang good in his first season with that Elite Eight. And so it's very early, Jerome Tang and his team, his staff, I guess, they don't want to peak early. So for me personally, man, I'm not hitting the panic button. You get to learn a lot more from a loss against a Power 6 opponent than you do beating New Orleans or Cleveland State. So if it kind of becomes a pattern like we're talking about with football, certainly you can have those kind of discussions. But, K-State doesn't want to be clicking right now on all cylinders. They want that in March when the games truly matter the most in the tournament. So, I'm not panicking with regards to that press conference today, though. Jerome Tang would echo those same words. There was no real panic from him. One loss in a 30-plus game season. He took all the blame, as he did in the post-game presser on Thursday. He took, and his staff, they said he didn't have his guys prepared, giving them a good enough a game plan to execute. And so he didn't want his players to feel like it was on them. Tang kind of took blame for the loss. And, again, it's just one loss in a long season. And I mentioned that Butler game, though, because Kansas State, you can still have a really, really good season in basketball despite some ugly losses. Whereas football, with how magnified those games are and how one game really affects the standings, the minutia in there is just so much different in hoops. And so I'm really not concerned with what happened against LSU. I'm sure people maybe don't want to hear that. You can call me a sunshine pumper all you want. I'll be critical when it's bad. And I guess it was bad, but there were still some stuff to like from that game. I thought Doug McDaniel was awesome when he was inserted into the starting five. And I know Tang in his press conference today kind of deflected praising McDaniel just because he said a win-loss is a point guard stat by and large. And so, but there were some still good things to take away. The turnovers, it was only 7 turnovers against LSU. So just because it was a loss, I'm not trying to say you can easily forget about it, but could be much worse.
I hear you saying it could have been worse because if they had turned the ball over, they would have scored like 7 points. That's what I hear. Hey, Gills, we've seen Jerome Tang and now Chris Kleiman take the blame. Good leaders take the blame. And I want to point out that every time we have a podcast go bad, I take the blame. Then I put it on Gilbert. But I take it first. Then I give it to Gilbert as it's his fault. Lance, you young hipster, is the NIL ruining college sports?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. No, I think it's a combination. I think it's just one. I think it's bad on the NCAA that it's just been rushed out.
Yeah.
So I think it was the whole like California thing that even got NIL in the first place. Was California was like, we don't really care what you say. We're gonna start giving our athletes money, and the NCAA kind of had to like shuffle this out. But I do think there was a little bit of that sentiment with the students, especially in that student section during that game. It's like Coleman Hawkins is, according to the reports, is making $2 million to run, pretty much have cardio. I mean, that's what he did on Thursday against LSU, and I think there is a part of that where we see it in almost every major sport, and it's now seeping into college sports where it's I guess in a contract year they can play really well, and then once they get that money, they're not the same player. We see that a lot in the NFL, NBA, and so you got to wonder, is that starting to seep down to the college level, where what it used to be, I need to play as hard as I can to get to the NBA. It's now, well, I'm already getting paid. Kind of like what happened with Miami last year. But I think NIL overall is good. I think the players deserve it. But I do wonder sometimes with more of the salary-based game, less of actual NIL and more of, we're going to give you $2 million. You're going to do a couple NIL things for us. Cool. If that is starting to affect the sport.
I agree. Cole, I've often said there's one thing K-Staters won't put up with from their sports teams, and it's not losing. It's losing without effort, and not even winning and not putting in effort. That's not what the culture is here. And they look like they didn't care in that game. And I also wonder if the NIL hasn't amped up, not anger, just dissatisfaction, because we know they're getting paid now.
Yeah.
And Lance brought up the $2 million number. We're not sure if that's right, but I was doing some ciphering at the basketball game, and I figured it was about $70,000 a game for Coleman. He's making more money than a school teacher every game to play college basketball. I don't think asking for effort is outlandish, because he looked like he didn't give two shits about that game.
I'm supposed to top that. Yeah. First of all, the stray at school teachers is not very nice, Fitz, but
it's true.
You're only supposed to make fun of me here.
I know. Yeah. Steve understands. No. So here's the thing, guys. I agree. And the thing about basketball is it's a lot easier to get that corrected with 13 guys on scholarship than in football, where there's 85 guys on scholarship. And so I have faith that this staff, they say you can't coach effort. I agree with that. But ultimately, the depth on this team, if one guy is playing bad or one guy's not giving effort, there's going to be somebody. Because we can say that, talk about a contract year. Well, guess what? There's some players on that team that aren't making that much money. And they want to play. They want to succeed. And if somebody's not doing the job, this staff will not hesitate to take them out of the lineup. That's the good thing. You're telling me right now that by fall, if Ugana, if Coleman Hawkins, if David Gasson is not performing at that level, that Byfall is not just going to be ready to step in there and play and give it his all. I think he would be, and he's talented enough to do it. And so the depth on this team really, really makes it, I don't want to say easier, but we're going to find out about this team. And it might not be until that game against St. John's in New York City on December 7th, but we're going to find out about that team. And we're definitely not going to find out about this team, Fitz, as I go into my segue that I've been holding in since 6 o'clock tonight when I was doing my exhausting research. K-State plays Mississippi Valley State, okay? And they're horrible, like just straight up horrible.
They've got moms and dads. Come on.
They are the Delta Devils, okay? I've heard of Mississippi Valley State before. They've lost every single game they've played this year by over 40 points, except for one game.
That is not true. Fake news. They won against a women's team.
No. So I was getting to this. Go
ahead. My apologies.
I'm a history teacher, so I want to enlighten the people here. Their one win this season was against the Mississippi University for Women. And that is a real school. That is a Division III school located in Columbus, Mississippi. They won that game by 17 points. Now, it has not always been the Mississippi University for Women. Notoriously, it was formerly named the Industrial Institute and College for the Education of White Girls.
What?
It just gets better and better.
Hold on. It's a women's school.
It is not in 1920 or 1986, they decided to allow men to enroll because of a Supreme Court case that challenged. There was a student who challenged to see if they could be in the nursing program because their laws were discriminatory against men. And the Supreme Court case ruled you cannot allow admission based on specific programs in a public institution based on gender. So men are now allowed to enroll at the Mississippi University for Women, also formerly known as the Mississippi State College for Women. They are the Owls, and they have a 23% male population, but nonetheless, they are Division III, and that is who Mississippi Valley State beat by 17 points. Every other game has been lost by 50 points.
I get
real quick here before you pivot over to something else with Coleman Hawkins. Just since we were there, he's at 8.5 points a game, and with the alleged NIL numbers, you want that to be much higher, and that's where I think the fans' frustration is coming from. Two things to keep in mind. Number one, Coleman Hawkins can impact winning in a positive way when he's not scoring. He can facilitate, rebound, defend, block shots, all that stuff. So don't just be focused on what he can do, putting the ball through the net. My, issue with Hawkins was at the end of that game, getting into it with Cam Carter. I don't care whose fault it was. I don't care how it started. That's not a good look. You can't be doing that, especially after a loss. And so, guys, that's one of your star players going up against a guy that Drum Tank says that he and his staff love and played a part in an Elite Eight team. I don't care who was at fault. I don't care how it started. You don't want to see that. And so that's, effort aside, all that stuff you guys mentioned, getting into it at the end of a game where you lose, that's where Coleman Hawkins, you need to show some better leadership from that perspective following a defeat.
I totally agree. That was abhorrent. It was ridiculous. And I got news for him. K-State fans still like Cam Carter, so that wasn't a good look in any way. But Cole, back up. It used to be for the education of white women?
Correct. It was the Industrial Institute and College for the Education of White Girls. So not women, girls. And it was founded in 1884. And if you do your math about the Civil War, that's not too long afterwards.
True. It's good. 19 years. They changed the name for obvious reasons. You want your demographic to reach beyond white.
Do you want to take a guess when they changed that?
Go for it.
1966.
Oh yeah,
that's what I was going to guess. By the way,
that lasted that long.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. But now that they have men attending their school, why don't they change the name of the school? Can you dig into?
They've tried. I did some research. They tried, and the Board of Regents is completely against it. They will not change it to have any inclusive. They want to make it because right now it's known as the Dub. The Dub.
Okay, we're moving on.
Can we put our super chat on the screen? We have some.
Yeah, let's get it up there. Look, there's not enough education going on in Mississippi, apparently. Austin, thank you so much for this. Top reasons we should hit the panic button in basketball or be excited for a great season. KSU Nation boys, run with it. Why should we hit the panic button, or why should we still be excited about basketball after that horrible performance?
You go ahead, Kenny. I'll let you take the first time. Here we go.
Well, I mean, I always try to bring optimism. You know, like I said this earlier, Coach Tang is a great coach. He's a great person, and you want to have faith in a guy that brought a team to the Elite Eight just 2 years ago. And so I don't want to just throw this team under the bus completely without giving him a chance to actually coach the team, because I do believe he is a good coach. And I don't know, the guys that we have in the locker room have talent. I mean, I also have to have faith in the people that recruited these people. I mean, are we going to just go down the list and say, well, the coaching's bad, the recruiting's bad, like everybody's just bad? I mean, that says a lot about our program if that's the case, and we just need to gut everybody out. We have to like drain the swamp, I guess, of our own university, I guess, if that's the case. But I don't want to believe that. I want to actually have faith in our university and the people that we choose to bring players on board. And, you know, you're right. I mean, we do need to actually figure out what makes these players tick, you know, and get them actually to care about winning basketball games for K-State, you know, who came from other universities, other programs. You know, that's up to the coaching staff, of course. Yep. But I mean, for me, I got to look at this as an optimistic view. Okay. It's still early in the season. It's not quite. It's too soon for me to hit the panic button, Steve. Okay. Too soon.
No, I agree with everything you said there. But if I want to play the devil's advocate here, I mean, K-State's been bad at rebounding for every year since Jerome Tang's been here, right? And they've been really bad at turning the ball over every single year since Jerome Tang's been here. And you said it earlier. Did he just get lucky that no one else wanted Keontae Johnson? Did he just get lucky that Marquise Noel was already here and wanting to play at K-State, and Ish Massoud decided to play the season of his life? I don't know, man. I don't know. I do feel like he's a great recruiter. I still have a lot of questions about his offense, his X's and O's and all of that. So I definitely see, especially after this last game, I mean, they got annihilated. Like, even though it was only 11 points or whatever it was, they were annihilated by LSU. Let's just call it how it is. They did not play well. So from that standpoint, I could see why people would not be happy and really start to question him and the rest of the season.
Yeah. Lance, up or down? You thinking positive or negative about hoops?
You know, we've had a lot of negativity here. You know, okay. I want to say some positives. So I think Doug McDaniels, for starters, is a positive. He played, I think, really well, and I think he commands the offense really well, and I think the offense just looks really good around him. I also think Jerome did a solid job. I don't think it was, you know, obviously the greatest because we lost, but I do like that we have a little bit more less of a vanilla offense this year. I think we do run a little bit more sets, more motions, and we honestly just missed a lot of shots. And also, this team has just got a lot of transfer guys. I'm not going to hit the panic button yet, and I think it's still going to be a great season. You know, an Elite Eight run might be a little bit of a far stretch, but I think they definitely, if they can do some damage in Big 12 play, will be a tournament team, and I don't think it's time to hit the panic button.
Cole, where are you at on this?
I'm still optimistic.
Well,
I don't think there's any reason to panic. You can be frustrated and still be optimistic. That's kind of how I am with football and the trajectory of that program right now, and it's kind of how I feel about basketball. Guys, can we just take a step back and realize that everything around this program is elevated compared to where it was 4 years ago? I mean, this talent that they have on this team is better than any talent that Bruce Weber has ever had. I don't even think that is a stretch to say. The individual talent on this team exceeds any team that K-State's had in a really long time. On top of that, guys, you look at the recruiting, and we can sit here and bash the NIL numbers all we want. And I agree that if you are getting paid a certain amount, then you should embrace that, and your performance on the court should matter. Guys, they're still in the running for the #1 high school player in the country. And all of these transfer portal guys that were brought in, these are guys who are coming from Kentucky, from Illinois, from Michigan. All due respect to Marquise Noel, they're not coming from Arkansas Little Rock. And I think, to me, that's why you have to be optimistic, because these are really good basketball players. They just didn't play well on Thursday. Are there issues? 100%. Do I believe that Jerome Tang and his staff can figure it out? Also 100%. Is it going to be easy? No, you play in the Big 12. But I'm optimistic because of the talent that's with this group.
Ryan Gilbert, you have an interesting insight. You'll be, of course, at Tuesday's game, but then you're going to Paradise, going to go join the boys in the islands for little hoops. I'm sorry that you have to go through that. But I'm sure you're pretty up close to this because you cover basketball very closely. I would imagine you think this was one game out of a bigger picture.
Yeah, I went on that spiel earlier, and Fitz, I think it was you made a comment about K-State only had I said 7 turnovers, and well, if they had more than that, they lose by 50, right? I mean, you're not wrong, but I think the glass half full here was in the second game against Cleveland State. You win it by 13. I think K-State had 19 turnovers in that game, and or some other stat I think that wasn't pretty as well. It's like K-State didn't have a pretty game and still comfortably won, and that game was up in the 20s for parts of that second half. And so comfortably winning when you're not playing pretty, that's the sign of a good team. And K-State, obviously, that loss against LSU wasn't good. It could have been worse if there were more turnovers, but we saw that this team can play a bad game and still come out on top. Now, I don't want to say Cleveland State or New Orleans are the best teams in the world, right? But, this was a great learning experience. I said that earlier. You don't learn from those easy wins. You get to learn from your losses against Power 6 opponents. And so, don't write off the Paradise Jam and the Virgin Islands. 3 of those teams made the big dance last year. There's no, big time sexy name programs you're going to see in that field. I get it. But if you can win that tournament and instill that winning culture in your program, within your locker room, winning a tournament 3 games in a row, I don't care who you're playing, is not easy. And so, that's an opportunity for K-State to grow on the court. But Jerome Tang also talked about this off the court, out in Paradise. You get to go do a caravan. I don't know what all they're doing, but they're doing a lot of team building activities, right? And getting to spend time together, not a bad thing.
I think seeing Ryan Gilbert shirtless on the beach is a pretty big motivating factor to get in the gym. So that'll be good for the team.
I'm not staying at the same hotel as them, so they don't have to worry about that.
Okay. But honestly, you go back to that first season, we were uncertain about that team, and then they went on their trip against a bad tournament field and ironically beat LSU to win that tournament. And that seemed to spark life, exactly like Gil said. It brought life to him. Okay, let's come back around. I try to keep it under an hour. We're at 52 minutes right now, so real quick. Oh, hold on. Hold on. I love it. Oh, Beezy, that's the best. There we go. The Colorado fans still watching the show, making fun of Cole.
You know what? I love it. Honestly, I'm here for it. Let's go.
Beezy.
Let's go.
That's fun. Okay. Okay. Burke, Greeley, they're going to get this done on Saturday. K-State basketball.
K-State football.
K-State football. Sorry.
Yes. We don't have a score prediction out yet, but I definitely still think K-State's going to win. You talked about how the vibe check did not check out with you today. And Kenny and I have been talking about this for a while, that like Coach Kleiman has really not looked good in a press conferences for a while, because we watch all of them, obviously, on your YouTube channel over anyone else's, of course. But he looked a lot better today. And I do agree that Avery Johnson did not look the best today in his press conference, but all the players always go off of the coach's energy, and energy has not been there the last couple of weeks. It really hasn't. And he even talked about how Coach Kleiman said they thought they could just show up in Houston and win. And if he thought that, the players thought that, and that's why they played like crap. And last week in a press conference, he did not look very good. I know there's stuff going on in this family. I get that, but all the players feed off of the coach's energy, and that's why they did not play well. That's part of why they didn't play well. A whole bunch of other reasons. But I do think K-State is going to win on Saturday. I think I still got them winning pretty comfortably. Don't have a score yet, but I'm going to say 10 to 14 points. Kenny, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't done our show yet, but this is the last game for those 6-year seniors.
Yep.
This is really important for a lot of people in that locker room. You gotta put it all out there. I think the coaching staff needs to lay it all out on the line. At this point, you can play I mean, like I said earlier, you can, there might be a chance to get into the Big 12, but not realistically. I mean,
it's like a 0.1% chance.
Yeah,
like, honestly,
we could automatically say right now, K-State's got nothing to lose. Just go out there and play really well. Play loose. Get the weight of the world off your shoulders. Just go out there and have a good time and actually like play some good football. You know, I think Coach Kleiman said that he was going to let Avery loose a little bit. I want to see that. I actually want to see Avery let loose for a change and actually do something that he hasn't done all season, which we thought he was going to be doing a lot. You know, a lot of the stuff that, Sam Levitt was doing, we're like, man, that should be Avery out there doing that. But I have K-State winning. To answer your question, Fitz, I've been pretty spot on with my score predictions on K-State.
Lately, I was good at the beginning of the season, Kenny. Let's not forget that.
But I'm gonna go ahead and say K-State wins. We'll go 35-24. How about that?
Lance, they're gonna get it done. I don't need score. Just give me. You got a good feeling, bad feeling, no feelings. You don't care about me. You hate Ryan Gilbert. Just say what's ever on your mind.
I wouldn't say I hate Ryan Gilbert, but
thank you.
I don't know if he might not like me as much, but
no, I don't. Yes, accurate statement.
I would say honestly, I don't know if I feel so great about this game. It just feels like I think there's two outcomes. I think either they come out and they're just completely mad about how their season transpired and they go out there, they take care of business and dominate Cincinnati. But I also could see a world where they're just this mopiness almost carries over. Like, I mean, we saw them go out on Saturday and come out flat in a game that was an elimination game against a team that had the exact same record as them. I think at this point in the season, if that's your motivation, it's hard for me to sit here and say that I think they're going to just go out there and completely right the ship after what I watched on Saturday.
Ryan Gilbert, you won't be here for the game. You will be in St. Thomas, but does K-State win in football?
Man, I'm going to say K-State absolutely does not cover. There's no way K-State can win by more than a touchdown given what we've seen the last 2 weeks. I am as pessimistic as anybody on this panel. I think it was 8.5 last I checked. I just two games in a row, man. That is, I've said it, I think, for the third time now on this show. That's a pattern.
Okay. Look, Cole, I'm not going to ask you about the K-State game. I'm going to ask you about CU and KU. Does KU handle the Buffaloes in that daunting, scary Arrowhead environment for KU games?
Why are you setting me up for failure?
I don't know.
You're setting me up for failure. If you know exactly what I'm – no, KU's going to win.
KU's going to win?
Yeah, I think KU's going to win. And it has nothing to do with Colorado. Let me just say that right now. Colorado fans watching, if you're still watching, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I don't think your team is going to win because I think KU right now is better offensively than Colorado is defensively, and this is going to be a high-scoring game. So I think KU is going to win. Now, would I be surprised if Colorado wins? Absolutely not. But I don't think that Colorado can stop Jalen Daniels and Devin Neal. I just don't. And They got lucky last weekend. And did they play well on defense? 100%. But Isaac Wilson is one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen play the game of football. And so
you ever watch Alan Bowman, bro?
No, I would take Alan Bowman. I would take Alan Bowman over Isaac Wilson every day of the week.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Beezy. I really, really am sorry. If Colorado was playing probably anybody else, I would pick them. But I'm going to take KU. And you're not going to ask me about the K-State game, but I think Ryan Gilbert's an idiot. Not because of his prediction, but I do think K-State wins too. So
okay, that's it. They've put it all out there. Here's my theory. I've covered K-State a long time. Now that K-State doesn't really matter if KU beats Colorado, KU will beat Colorado. If K-State had won last week, and then Colorado would beat KU. That's my beaten down, covered K-State for more than 30 years. philosophy on that. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's edition of The Insider. Boys from KSU Nation, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
And if you could send some subscribers over our way, that'd be great. We're like 70 away from 1,000. So anyone watching, please subscribe to KSU Nation here.
Everyone pop over there and subscribe. Get them over 1,000. It's really big for creators. Lance, thank you very much. Tell your roommate thanks for not murdering you during the show. And that will be it. Next time you see Ryan Gilbert, well, you're going to see him before that. But next time on The Insiders, he's going to be tan and sexy. That's a lie. We're leaving.
Thank you for watching the K-State Insiders. This has been a GoPowercat.com and Spirit Street production.